session on how to prepare and ace an interview for a job. So this is the very first episode of Ace the Job, brought to you by Packaging, and this particular one is powered by Detalium. The idea of Ace the Job is what we'll call our own contribution to developing youth. Packaging is a brand management platform, personal branding, business branding, everything to put you out there in the right light for your customers, for your clients, for prospective employers, and all that. So, Ace the Job is one of the platforms we've developed. This is the first one. And with what we have planned, we know that it's going to be a very exciting one. Today, joining us, we have Titi Damiro and Adideji Onabule, pardon me, both of which will be taking us through the various stages of acing the job. So from the very beginning to the end of what would qualify you for a job. And as I mentioned earlier, my name is Uyin Fashogun. I'm a brand and marketing expert. So before we bring in our first speaker, who will be Adideji, by the way, I'd just like to prepare our minds right on why this is important. So why is this session important? And the good thing is nobody is ever beyond this, whether you are 100 years working, or you're a new graduate, or you're fresh out of school, or you're still even in school, right? It is never beyond everybody at every point in time to aspire for better roles, to aspire for, even if it's your business clients and all of that, how to personal positioning or branding is never something that anyone grows out of, really. So before we move on, I'd like us to take a step back. If you have your CV in front of you, you can open it and ask yourself the following question, right? So I want to determine what vibe your CV is giving at the moment, even to you as the owner of the CV, right? So let's test the following things. If you are with me, can I hear a yes in the chat room? So we want to test our CVs for the following thing and prepare our minds for when our speakers come in. So if you can hear me, please type yes in the chat room. Okay, good. Thank you. So here are the things we'll be testing on our CVs. If you have your CV, or some of us like me now, I'm sure I have an idea of how my CV looks like. So if you have a mental picture of how your CV looks like, good enough. So does your CV tell how well you have educated yourself about current job searching practices? So is your CV up to date? So just be answering the question in your mind, though. It doesn't, don't put it here. And if the answer is no, whether no or yes, it still works. So is your CV, does your CV reflect that you know about current job searching practices? Does your CV show your ability to concisely summarize information? Those with 4 to 5 CV pages. Does your CV show your ability to concisely summarize information? Does your CV show your business writing skill? Just keep the answer to yourself like that. And if the answers are no, good. If the answers are yes, there's still room for improvement. Does your CV show that you are attentive to detail? Does it show that this person um, has attention for tiny details? You know, those commas, full stops, spelling errors, all of those things. Yeah, yeah, yes. Does your CV show that you take yourself seriously and that you take the job um you are applying for seriously? Because of the role and because of the mails I get, trust me, I have seen CVs where somebody forwarded his application to a competitor than to me. So let's say, for instance, is applying for instance, social media manager to GT Bank, right? And then what the person did was forward his application to Zenith Bank to GT Bank. So by the time you see the mail trail, you see to HR at Zenith Bank. So he just forwarded what he sent from Zenith Bank and forwarded it back to us. Okay, I don't work in a bank. That's just an example. So does this show that because obviously that person does not take us seriously. Neither does he take himself seriously anyway. So does your CV and your application show that you pay attention, or you take yourself and your job seriously? So Favor says, please, can you reiterate what you have said? Okay, because we don't have so much time, I'll just run through it again and then call on our speakers for the day. So the question is, what vibe is your CV giving? Number one, does your CV show how well you have educated yourself about current job searching practices? Like, does it show that I am in tune with what is applicable about current job search? Does it show your ability to concisely summarize information? I know that I'm pulling on some people at this point, right? I'm throwing some shades, 10 pages interview, 10-page CV, people. Does your CV show that you have good business writing skills? Does your CV show that you have attention to details? And does your CV show that you take yourself seriously and you take the potential job seriously? So that these are the questions we should have at the back of our mind, even as we go into the session for today. These questions will help us to prepare our mind and see the reason for these sessions, while our professionals come and tell us how to ensure that our CV ticks all of those boxes. It's possible that your CV does not tick those boxes, and that is why you are here, right? It's possible that your CV ticks some of these boxes. It's possible that your CV ticks all, but of course, this is not a complete checklist. There is still always room for improvement. So right about now, I'll be introducing our first speaker for today. This is a very, I'm sure by the time you hear is you hear about his portfolio, what he has done, you would understand why we should listen attentively to him. So the very first speaker today is Adedeji Onabule. Adedeji Onabule is a consultant with Jobber Man. Yeah, so you see why he's extremely qualified to take us on this session. So Adedeji is a HR professional who enjoys meeting new people. So it's good that he's here because he'll meet all of us and ensuring that they have an uplifting experience. Okay. Over the years, Adedeji has gained experience in both operational and consulting human resource. He combines his background in operational behavior, business administration, and his experience in human resource management in delivering exceptional value to clients on diverse engagements. Additionally, is a dedicated and outgoing team player. For his experience, he currently operates as a part of a team responsible for mapping slash implementing strategies required to deliver the Young Africa Works project in Nigeria in partnership with MasterCard Foundation. I'm sure some of us know about this project. The project seeks to train 5 million Nigerians and place 3 million in dignified and fulfilling employment by 2025. Prior to joining Jobberman, he worked as an HR consultant with Deloitte Nigeria, where he was actively involved in several client engagements geared at transformation of processes, building a HR system and structure in areas such as talent management, organizational development, compensation and benefits, learning and development, management, organizational design, workforce planning, and like the whole 9 yards of HR and talent management. So well, we have a very valuable resource in our midst, and today, pardon me, today Deji will be talking to us about how to write a winning CV. I'm sure we already said that he's overqualified to actually talk to us about this. So sharing CV tips and how to optimize your LinkedIn page. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome Deji to take over now. Welcome, Deji.
Yeah, thank you very much, Oyin. Thank you for the introduction. I think you said it all. You said nine yards. Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me? All right. So once again, thank you, Oyin, for the very warm introduction. It's nice to be here and to be talking into it. So Oyin has done the introduction. She talked about me. Currently operate as a strategy consultant on the Young Power project with MasterCard Foundation. Prior to that, I used to work at Deloitte. So I'll just get straight to the what is CV? CV is your curriculum vitae course of your life. So meaning that we want to see every of your life. So from the summary of your education, and if you have like tell you, all of these things should be on your CV. If I to pick up the CV, if a recruiter is saying,
Okay. It's seeming like Deji has a bit of internet issues. Let's give him 2 minutes. While for him to sort that out. If it's not done in 2 minutes, if we're not able to have him back in 2 minutes, we'd have Titi Damiro come up. While Deji's internet is sorted. So while we apologize for delay, let's give Deji 2 minutes to see if the internet is back. If not, we have Titi Damiru join us. So we'll just switch the sessions. Thank you. All right. So We are not able to have Deji back, but Deji's session is definitely going to come in just later. So let's meet Titi Damiro. Before we meet Titi Damiro, let me say that Titi is going to be telling us about um, how to prepare for interviews and how to answer interviews questions. Um, Deji was supposed to tell us how to prepare our CV, then take us into attending the interview, and then Titi tells us how to prepare for interviews. But which anyone can come before, which so it's not too late to it's not too early to know how to prepare for your interview. So we'll be talking about how to prepare for interviews and how to answer interview questions. And to take us through this session is Titi Damiro. So let's meet Titi. Titi Damiro is an ex-banker with 14 years experience in both commercial and mortgage banking sectors. She started her banking career with Access Bank in 2007 as a customer service officer before moving on to join Hagai Mortgage Bank Limited, also as a customer service officer, and was later redeployed to product and asset management department. She rose from an executive trainee to an assistant manager before resigning from the banking industry in December 2020 to join a multinational pharmaceutical company as an executive administrator and office manager for Nigeria. Titi also facilitates data and HR analytics. So for as many as attended HR analytics, I'm sure you've met Titi for Datalium classes as a volunteer. So let's welcome Titi as she takes us through how to prepare for interviews and how to ace the interview, and of course, which means how to get a job. So welcome, Titi.
Thank you, Oyin, for that wonderful introduction of myself. I'm grateful for that. And thank you to Packaging also for this opportunity to be a guest speaker at the maiden edition of Ace the Job 1.0. Thank you so much. I do not take it for granted at all. And also to everyone present today, I say thank you for joining in. And I believe that this will be worth your time, and you would also learn a lot that will help you ace your next job interview. All right, kindly confirm if you can see my screen. All right, thank you for that. So let me put it in the presenter's mode so that it can be easy for those using their phones to view. All right. I'll be introducing myself anymore. Oya has done a fantastic job on that already. The topic for discussion given to me today is how to prepare for interview and also how to answer interview questions. So the same way the topic is, I'm going to break it down into two aspects. The first one is how to prepare for a job interview. I want to believe that we all know the meaning of interview, but for a benefit of doubt, let me just give us the meaning of an interview. An interview is a formal meeting for the assessment of a candidate or applicant, which can be physical or virtual. Thanks to the world of COVID, most of the activities now have moved to the virtual world. I have about 13 tips here for us on how to prepare for job interviews. So the first tip here, let me widen my screen. The first tip here is to research about the job role and the company you're interviewing with, in terms of knowing the mission, the vision, and the value of the organization. It's very important that before you go for any interview, you've submitted your CV, and luckily for you, you've been invited for an interview. You don't just go for an interview without making a proper research of the job role and also the company that you're interviewing with. It's very important because you will need to align your answers during the interview proper to the job role and also to the company profile itself, their mission, their vision, and also their value. This will help you to answer your interview questions effectively. It's also very nice for us to surf the internet or watch YouTube videos for interview tips. The world of interview keeps changing every day. Things keep evolving. If about 3 years ago, we were told that we'll be having virtual interviews, I'm sure some people might not believe. They'll say, oh, no, not now, maybe in the next 20, maybe 2050. But here we are in 2021. We're already having interview, being done in a virtual way. And then also we have people working in Nigeria, in other parts of the world virtually. So things are actually changing. Same thing with interview. Interview methods and modes are changing every day. So it's very important for you to surf the internet, to watch YouTube videos for interview tips. That's the latest trend for you to be able to ace your interview. The next tip I have here is to have a demo interview with someone and also in front of your mirror. It's very important that you get someone, maybe a mentor or maybe a senior colleague or someone who has been able to ace his or her interview to help you with a demo interview, where you sit down in front of the person asks you likely questions that might be asked of you during the interview, and then you're able to answer the questions. And if there's a need for feedback, the person is able to mentor or tutor you the right way to answer the question. And then after that also, you can try to have like a demo interview in front of your mirror. Is also very good for you to be able to stand in front of a mirror, maybe ask yourself likely questions and be able to answer those questions. But bear something in mind. Ensure that you do not recite your questions or you do not memorize the answers. It's very important, because if you do, it's possible you get to the interview venue and the questions you are being asked are not the ones you have practiced. That can distort you. The purpose of a demo interview is for you to just practice. It's not for you to memorize whatever you practice at the point of the demo interview. The next tip here is you can also connect with someone, maybe an ex-staff or a current staff, via LinkedIn to seek their guidance. It's very important. This tip has helped me about twice, when I was actively searching for a job. I actually got a job and I went online to LinkedIn to ask, guidance from one of the staff on LinkedIn. And the guy was so nice to me. And he actually told me that I shouldn't bother myself going for the interview, that the company wasn't the right company. And he said so many things about the company, about not being structured, not being organized. Lo and behold, when I got to the interview, everything he told me was just the same way it was. And I just knew that I wasn't going to waste my time the second time, even if I was invited for a second interview. The second case was when I had an interview, and I also reached out to someone on LinkedIn, and the guy was very helpful. He gave me interview tips, how to answer their questions, likely questions that will be asked. And when I got there to the interview, venue, the questions and the tips he gave to me were what was asked, at the point of the interview. But I couldn't proceed with the job offer because they wanted me to be outside of Lagos, and my family was based in Lagos, and I wasn't ready, for separation at that time. So I moved on. So it's very important that you can also seek, guidance from someone who has worked in the organization, or maybe someone who is currently working there. The next tip here is to prep your body. It's very important that you keep your hair cut clean, your hair too, you clean your nails, your ears, your teeth, get a deodorant, body spray or perfume is very important. No one's going for an interview, and at the point of the interview, when you sit down in front of the interviewing officer, they begin to sniff their nose, and you feel embarrassed. And you won't be able to answer questions. You'll be able to give in your A game because you know that your body is smelling, or your teeth is smelling, or something about your appearance isn't right. So it's important that you prep your body before every interview. Ensure you have a clean hair shave, you have a fine hairdo for ladies, have your nails cleaned up, have your ears cleaned up, your teeth cleaned up. If you eat food in the morning before your interview, ensure to use maybe a floss or a toothpick to clean your teeth. Look into the mirror to ensure that there's no food particle still hanging in your teeth. And then also use body spray or deodorant. It's also very important to enter an interview room, with a very good fragrance. The next tip here is for you to prep your clothes and your shoes. It's very important that you iron your clothes before the interview. Check your clothes for any tear, any damage that might be on it. It's important. It's not in the morning of your interview. You want to wake up when you're about dressing up, you realize that your clothes is torn or there's something wrong with your clothes. At that point, the entire day is already messed up for you. Where do you start from? You start looking for a tailor to sew for you, all those kind of things. So it's important that you prep your clothes, and also important that you iron your clothes, thanks to PHCN or NEPA in Nigeria. It's very important that you iron your clothes at least few days to the interview. Don't wait to the very last day before your interview to do all that. Ensure that you check your shoes, check to ensure that there's no tear or there's no damage. You will not want to get to your doorstep and you realize that the sole of your shoe is bad, and then you have to start looking for another shoe. That will not help you, ace the job interview. The next item here, that's the tip, is for you to prep your tools. Thanks to the virtual world now, you're having an interview that virtually, and you need your phone or your laptop, depending on the gadget you choose to use. It's very important that you ensure that your phone is fully charged, your laptop is charged, your headset is functioning well, your earpiece as well. Sorry, just a minute, okay. Now your earpiece as well is functioning very well. It's very important that all these items are working perfectly well. For me, I actually have, I don't know if you can see this. I have, these headsets I use. It actually needs to be charged, but I can't use it today because I misplaced the charger and I couldn't charge it, and it's not fully charged. I also have the normal earpiece here that I can use in case this other one that needs to be charged, messes up. I have a ring light in front of me here that I also use. I'm going to turn it off so you can see. You can see that everywhere has gone dark. I won't want to go for an interview and everybody is trying to strain their eye to see my face. Currently now there's light in the house, so that's why it's bright. You can still see my face. But I actually have this ring light, always by my side in case, NEPA tries to pull a stunt on me. So I just, use it for my interview sessions or training session. And it has different light gradients depending on the one that you want. And it's not that expensive. With less than 10,000 naira, you can get this kind of ring light. It's just a 10 millimeter or 10 centimeter ring light or so. You can have it. And then also having a power bank by your side is also very, very key. In case your laptop, goes bad or something happens to your laptop, to your devices, that you will need to charge them immediately. It's good to have a power bank by your side. And the next tip here is, if you do not know how to use virtual tools for meeting, ensure to learn and to practice. It's very key and important. Lots of people are still not keyed into the virtual world. They don't know how to use the essential tools for meetings or for interview. I was privileged to work with an organization last year on a contract basis. I was their HR strategist for Nigeria. The company is based in the US. And I was to help them to recruit UI and UX designers and also product designers and product managers. And the meeting was the interview was to hold on Teams, and lots of them missed out of the interview because they could not use Teams. They didn't even know. Some of them said they didn't have Teams downloaded on their phone, and because after all, the world, everybody is using Zoom. Why would we use Teams? How can you query an interview panel? Why the choice of tool they use for their interview? That's not appropriate. At least you should have the major interview tools downloaded on your either phone or your laptop. It can be Zoom, it can be Google Meet, it can be Microsoft Teams. These are the three major ones that most organizations use for meeting. And don't just restrict yourself to Zoom alone. The next tip here is for you to know the exact location of the organization. If possible, I would advise you visit few days to the job interview or a day, or you ask for a detailed description. You will not want to go for interview and you get to maybe a T junction and you're asking, Augusta, please help me with description. I'm going to Oniru. And you might say, Oniru, you don't pass and take, then I'll go back. And then you have to go back. And when you get to another T junction, you ask, Oniru, now that place where they come from, now go back there. You won't want to experience that kind of thing because at the end of the day, you are worked up, you are tired, you are fatigued, and you will not be able to give out your A game. So it's always advisable that if you're not conversant with the place or you don't know where the company is located, that you visit the place at least a day or maybe few days to the interview day for you to be conversant with the location and also know how to, find your way to the interview venue. The next tip here is for you to sleep early and for you to sleep well. It's very important that you sleep early. You will not want to wake up late for your interview day and you have to start rushing. By the time you get there, it's going to be written all over your face that you do not sleep well or you are stressed out, and nobody wants to, really employ someone who is all stressed out and doesn't know how to manage his or her time. The next tip here is for you to get a waterproof bag for your CV and credentials in case you are asked to bring them along. So in case you're asked to bring your credentials along for your CV, thanks to those of us living in Lagos, that it can rain without notice. You can leave your house and it's all sunny, and before you get to your destination, it's already raining. So it's very important that you have the waterproof bag in case you don't have your personal car to put your items in. You won't want to ruin your documents because you're going for an interview. It's very important that you take care of your items. The next tip here is if you're not driving and cannot afford to take an Uber, please carry an umbrella. especially for those living in our wonderful Lagos, that it can rain without giving notice. Please carry your umbrella. You don't want to have your outfit or your dress soiled or your shoes soiled before you get to your interview venue. And then lastly, on the slide for how to prepare for an interview is that you wear a smile. It has a way of making your face relax and not tensed up. So this is all that I have. These are all the tips that I have for us for how to prepare for the interview. Now I'll be moving on to the next slide, which is about how to answer interview questions. So now it's one thing for you to prepare for the interview. It's another thing for you to be able to answer the interview question. You will not want to look all nice, all suited up, all kitted up. And when you get to the interview venue, you're looking nice, you're smelling nice, your teeth is sparkling, your eyes is sparkling, your makeup is intact, your haircut is fine. And you get to the interview and you're seated and you're asked questions and you cannot answer. You will not want that to be, an experience you want to have. So it's very important for us to know how to answer interview questions. Now, I put this part in 3 sessions, in 3 parts, basically. I have the pre-interview, I have the interview proper itself, and then I have the post-interview. Now, for the pre-interview is when you've gotten to the venue of the interview. Probably you're at the reception or you're at the waiting lobby, waiting to be called in. And then when you're called in, how do you, walk into the interview room, maybe the boardroom or wherever they've assigned for the interview in the organization? How do you walk into the place? Number 1 is for you to walk in confidently. It's very important that you're confident the way you walk in. You don't want to walk in with your head back down or looking all worked out or all stressed up. Walking confidently, wear a smile on your face is very important. You greet cautiously. If it's in the morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's very important that you greet. And then number 4, do not sit until you are offered a seat. And then when you're offered a seat, look at your vicinity. If the office or the space you're using for the interview is not rugged, do not drag your chairs, because some people don't like that screeching sound. It sends a bad signal to their brain, and that can just ruin their entire mood for the day and might impact on the way they are going to assess you for the interview. So just gently carry the chair up, sit down, and then gently pull the chair in to balance yourself well. And when you sit down, remember to say thank you for them offering you the seat. Now, the next thing I have here is the next slide is the interview proper itself. So how do you now answer the interview question? Now you've walked in confidently, you've worn a smile on your face, and you're seated on the chair, and you say thank you, of course. And then how do you answer the interview question now? So this is the second session under how to answer interview questions. Please, if I'm too fast, kindly drop in the chat session that I should please slow down. I know I can speak very fast at times. I'm actually working on that. So if I'm too fast for you, please feel free to drop in the chat session to let me know that I'm too fast so I can reduce my pace. The first thing here on how to prepare for the interview is to ensure to appreciate the organization for the interview opportunity given to you, because I want to believe that they've received hundreds of CVs, and yours happen to be one of the CVs that they've invited for interview. So it would be nice to say thank you to them. So let's assume the first question posed to you is, okay, we have your resume in front of us. Can you tell us about yourself or walk me through your experience? Or I did love to hear about your journey or your background. It's important before you answer the first interview question that you appreciate the organization for the interview opportunity given to you. The second point here is for you to take at least few seconds to think before you answer any question that you are asked. It's very important. It doesn't have to be up to a minute, maybe like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, to just quickly process the question before you answer it. It's very important that you don't just answer question out of space or out of points. It's very important that you answer the questions appropriately. The third point here is when you are asked to speak about yourself, keep it professional. You do not need to start from nursery school that you attended to your life history. Rather, sell yourself. This is an opportunity for you to market yourself, your skills, your ability, and your strengths. I have a slide that speaks about this, that has an example of how you can, sell yourself. I'm going to move on to the slide, and then we'll come back to number 4 and number 5. So this is a slide here that I have that I've just put a mini write-up on, how to just answer that question, because I realize that lots of people get to fail interview at this point, when they are asked to speak about themselves or talk about their journey or their background, in whatever format or way this comes, it's an opportunity for you to sell yourself. It's an opportunity to sell your skills, your ability, your talent, what you have done in time past. It's very important that you do all this. You don't have to start telling them, oh, I attended Ajangba Nursery and Primary School. I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm the first of 5 family, and these have lost my dad. All those things are not necessary. That's not what they want to know. What they want to know is basically your skills, your ability, and what you have done and what you're going to do for the organization. So from the write-up I have here, this is not cast in stone. You can actually start in any way, but there are just some salient points I want us to pay attention to. And that's why I have this brief write-up. You can either decide to start from your current role now, and then you streamline down to maybe your first degree at most. And it depends on what you want to do. But just kindly note, I've highlighted some things here in sorry, just a minute. I've highlighted some things out here in yellow. So I'll just skip the first line and I'll just start from here. I started my career in 1901 with XYZ Bank as a front teller and was moved to customer service a few months later because of my admirable interpersonal relationship skills. Note that down. Ability to multitask and excellent listening and communication skills. You can see that I've sold my skill. I've marketed myself. I've told them what I have, the skills I have. And mind you, before coming for this interview, I would have gone through the job description. I would have gone to search for the skills that are needed for that job. So when I'm speaking about myself, I'm going to tailor it, to the skills needed for the job. You will not want to recruit me for an accounting job, maybe a back office job, and I'm telling you that maybe I'm an extrovert or someone that jumps all around the place, because a back office role doesn't require somebody that is too loud, just somebody who is quiet, willing to sit down and do the job, But if it's maybe a customer service role, somebody who is moody cannot do a customer service job. It has to be somebody who has good interpersonal relationship skill, somebody who can multitask, somebody who can listen and communicate well, will fit into the role of a customer service person. So it's very important that you align your skills to the job role that you are being interviewed for. Now let's look at the next line. I joined ABC Bank in 1902 as a customer service executive because I was able to prove my expertise in delivering excellent customer service, and I sure did not disappoint the hiring manager as I was promoted same year I joined due to my exceptional knowledge of my job role, ability to proffer solutions to customer needs, calmness under pressure, innovative ideas, and good multitasking skill. And then I went on to tell them what I was able to achieve for the organization. I said, above all, I pioneered a digital filing system, digital check preparation process, use of mobile device to reach customers, upload of customer mandates on the banking application. And then I went on to say, I also averted a fraud case of 20 million during account opening due to my apt attention. You can see I'm also telling them I have attention to detail, my apt attention to details and ability to multitask effectively without losing touch of all the tasks. As a customer service person, you know that you must be able to multitask because you are attending to account opening, you are attending to balance requirements, you are attending to checkbook preparation at the same time. You must be able to multitask and pay attention to details so nothing slips you by. People that commit fraud come to you in the peak of the period when they see that you're very busy. That's when they bring the account opening, whereby you will not be able to check and pay attention to detail. But I was able to make them understand that even in the heat of the period, I have a very good multitasking ability that I do not lose touch with each activity or task I'm doing at the same time. Also, if you look at the next line, it says, okay, let me use my pointer. Just a minute, yeah. Here, it says, I transferred from customer service to corporate banking to handle high-profile customers of the bank, and I rose to become an assistant manager. Within few years of being transferred, I successfully coordinated the team that handled our software change, thus reducing our turnaround time. I led my team to reduce the percentage of non-performing loans to less than 0.5% from about 20%. And then reactivation campaign where lots of dormant accounts were reactivated and creation of new product that increased the bank's profit significantly. I would like anybody, to, if you know your business is not noisy, just unmute yourself and tell me what are the skills I'm trying to sell in this part from I successfully to this point where we have banks profit significantly. You can just kindly unmute yourself and just tell me what is that skill I'm trying to sell in this part. So it doesn't look as if I'm the only one that is speaking and speaking and speaking. Let somebody else also contribute, please. You can mute yourself if your vicinity is not noisy. Let's hear from you. Anybody? Anybody? Or if you want to drop it in the chat session, you can do that. We need to run fast. Okay, somebody said teamwork. Thank you so much, Favor Chukuma. Leadership, beautiful. Thank you so much. Leadership skills, thank you. Favor, thank you. Bola Raji. Leadership, thank you. Leadership and teamwork, thank you. Beautiful. You are all right. You're correct. I'm trying to let them know that I have a strong leadership ability. I have a strong leadership skill. I'm a good leader. The world is looking for leaders now because there's this popular saying that says that employees don't leave an organization because of the organization. They actually leave because of bad leaders. So every organization wants to employ someone that has good leadership skill. So I also try to sell my leadership skill in this part. And also, yes, profitability. Thank you so much for that, Ifeanyi. Contribute to the bottom line. Thank you so much, Ifeanyi. Yes, leadership, teamwork, great. We are all correct. Absolutely. We are all correct. That was what I was trying to sell. And also innovation, also creativity, innovation. Yes, that was what I was trying to sell in that part that I highlighted. And then, yes, next here, I went ahead to tell them what I also did. I introduced the use of data analytics in analyzing our risk asset portfolio, and this helps the organization to draw insights that help improve profit generation and forestall loans from being delinquent. Aside from my job function, I engage in mentoring and tutoring of new hires in the organization. And you can go ahead to give an example. For here, I give an example. I said, there's an OND holder who thought all hope was lost, but I was able to guide and mentor him to further his studies, which he did, and today he's a graduate and is working in a bank. And then you can also put this last sentence here if you want to avoid being asked the question of why do you want to leave your current organization? So I have here, while I really enjoy the work that I do, I did love the chance to apply my experience and skills in a non-banking sector, as I love to challenge myself, which is why I'm so excited about this opportunity with your organization. So this is very simple. This is very apt. I've been able to sell myself. I've been able to tell them, you know, the things I've done. And with the things I've done, in their minds, they'll begin to project, if this person could do so much more in this organization, where she is currently, we want to believe she can do much more in our organization. So that's why it's very important that when you're asked to sell yourself, give a background, a brief, a profile, whatever way it comes, try to sell your skills. You don't have to give stories about your background, where you're starting from and stuff like that. Nobody wants to hear that. So now I'll be going back to our slide. I hope that session, that slide helped us. Number 4 now, do not try to garner sympathy by begging or appealing to the interview panel to consider. You don't have to do that. You don't have to wear a long face. You don't have to be moody and you don't want to start crying and say, if people don't employ me today, now here I go die. No, you don't have to do all that. Just be confident in yourself, in the skills and the ability that you have, and then what to offer is very key. Then number 5, never bring down your boss, your colleague, your subordinate, or your clients during an interview by speaking bad of them. It's not good at all. This will not make the interview panel want to employ you because they'll feel, oh, the same way you're speaking bad about where you're coming from, who knows if you're going to do the same thing in their own organization. Rather, you know, for some people, when you ask them, why do you want to leave your organization? They say, oh, my HOD is a witch or is a wizard. No, you don't have to do that. Somebody is writing on my screen. Temitayo, thank you. Okay. You don't have to do that. You don't have to bring that up, but rather use instances whereby your boss has been difficult and you are able to navigate and deliver, even with a difficult boss. So don't speak in bad light, but rather come from the positive angle, even if you have to say anything, you know, about maybe working with a difficult boss or having to deal with a difficult subordinate or colleague, you know, at the workplace. And then also, like, I'll go back to number 3 again. It's very key. For some people, they might say, oh, I'm just a fresh graduate. I don't have any experience. Oh, it's because you've worked for so long. That's why you're able to come up with this write-up. No, my first job interview, I didn't have any experience. But when they asked me, okay, why do we have to employ you in this role? You don't have any experience. Sorry, please. Sorry, I didn't get, sorry, please, I need to divert a bit. Someone is asking a question here. I'm sorry, I have a question. Starting with the slide you projected, could it be that the question of why do you want to work with us has been answered? Yes, I actually answered it there. Technically, let me just quickly go back there. Just a minute. Yes, if you look at this last sentence here, I said, while I really enjoy the work that I do, I did love the chance to apply my experience and skills in the non-banking sector, as I love to challenge myself, which is why I'm so excited about this opportunity with your organization. It can be something else you want to write. Might be something else that you want to write. So I guess my time is moving on fast, so I'll just quickly breeze through. Number 16 here is, when asked about your weakness, never say you do not have a weakness, but rather mention the weakness in a positive way and state actions you are taking to improve on your weakness. So let's say, for example, now they ask me, what is my weakness? I can say, oh, I have stage fright. But however, I am working on improving this. I've enrolled myself in courses that have to do with public speaking. And also I've joined a group in church whereby I have to speak before the crowd, maybe bi-weekly or every week. It shows that, yes, I recognize my weakness, but I'm also working on that weakness to convert it to strength. Everybody has a weakness. So never you say you don't have a weakness, but always project your weakness in a positive light. Number 7, always align your response to the culture, vision, mission, value, and the mantra of the organization. I've spoken about that in the previous slide on how to prepare for a job interview. Number 8, ensure to have at least one question to ask whenever you are asked if you have a question. Oftentimes after the job interview, you are asked, do you have a question? You say, I don't have a question, or you look, or you're smiling. It's not appropriate. This current job that I'm working now, one thing that gave me this job was because I asked them a question, a key critical question. When they asked me, do I have a question? I told them, I noticed you're a multinational company, but I do not I cannot find the websites for Nigeria on the internet. So I want to know, is this company a franchise of the global body, or is a branch of the global body? And immediately all of them picked up their phone and they were checking. They were amazed that their website was not on the internet. Apparently, they had contracted it out to someone who had did it, they saw it, but the person now pulled it down because there was one error or the other, and they did not notify the organization that has pulled down the website to make some correction. So it shows that I went the extra mile to really study about the organization, and that alone, gave them an impression about me. And even when I resumed job there, everybody kept thanking me for making them know that they didn't have a website for the country. So it's important that you have a question prepared to ask when you're asked if you have a question. Number 9, do not state an exact amount when asked about salary expectation. Leave room for negotiation. Do not tell them a fixed amount. It's very important. You can just technically tell them that my salary expectation is in line with my experience. Basically, you don't really have to give them a fixed amount, or you can just tell them that, okay, you are open to negotiation in terms of salary, and not just give them a direct amount. Same thing for number 10. Basically, do not lie about your current salary, as you might be asked to provide payslip before an offer is made to you. And when you lie about it, you've created a bad impression already, and you can never have an opportunity with that kind of organization. Now I have to go very fast. I hope I'm not speaking too fast. Now, this is the last part under how to answer interview questions. This is the post-interview. After the interview, while the interview panel, you've mesmerized them, you've done everything. Now, how do you exit the interview? Ensure to thank the panel once more for the opportunity. Walk out confidently with a smile and never bow down your head while walking out. It is a sign of defeat when you bow down your head when you walk out. And then number 3, which is the last point, if you feel you made errors during the interview, do not be hard on yourself. Just ensure that you do not repeat such mistakes in subsequent interviews. And then I'll move on to the very last slide, which is interview keynotes. We have 7 keynotes here. Body language, do not give a weak handshake, do not have a poor posture. When you sit down, don't just sit down as if you're in your sitting room or your parlor. Ensure you have a very good posture, sit up right, and do not fidget. You don't have to be afraid. They're not lions, they're not going to eat you, they're not going to bite you, basically. So just ensure that you are not afraid. Just be courageous and put on your A game And then watch the tone of your voice. Be positive, have a positive tone, and let there be clarity in your voice. Somebody like me, I speak very, very fast. Before, when I'm speaking, I'm sure half of what I'm saying you will not hear. I've really, really improved thanks to my mentor who has helped me, over the time to be able to speak slow so that people can hear what I say and get clarity when I'm speaking. So it's important to also watch the tone of your voice. Also be passionate when you're responding to questions, show passion, and also your facial expression, smile from time to time, and not smiling foolishly or sheepishly, but wear a very nice smile on your face. Do not recite or memorize your CV or your responses. And then also practice before you go for the interview. And lastly, first impression matters a lot. It determines if you're going to land the job or not. So this is all that I have for us today. And I want to believe that we've all learned a lot from this slide that I have here. And finally, I would like to say, for the perfect job interview, stop believing in luck and start believing in yourself. And I wish you luck, best of luck in your next interview. I see you acing your next interview. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Packaging, for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Titi. So you have a couple of questions, actually more than a couple.
Okay.
We have questions. However, we have a time scheduled for questions at the end of everything. So we'll compile these questions, right? Keep your questions coming. Titi will answer them, but that will be after Deji's session. So every question will be attended to, but right after Deji's session. So Deji is ready, but before Deji comes on, we want to test our knowledge, or maybe more of if we have been attentive so far. So Packaging is going to bring up a poll, and we are supposed to, keep your questions coming in, right? And it's a poll, it would pop up on your screen. Vote what the correct answer is. So these questions are from Titi's session. We want to know how much you've been listening, because only if you have listened will you be able to apply this knowledge, right? So we want to ensure that everybody that attends this session goes out with something valuable. So Packaging, please go ahead to put up the poll question. Yeah, so we have the question on our screen. Can everybody see it? So what are the correct answers? Let's answer. Every question is going to be answered. Every question. We'll go down the chat and answer your question. So let's answer these. Let's ensure that we have all our answers in 2 minutes. So by 18:01, that's 6:01, we will reveal the answer and see how much we have been attentive to Titi's session. And of course, like I said, Titi will answer every question that has been asked as it pertains to a question at the end of Deji's session. So Deji, please prepare to come up soon. By 16:01, we reveal the answer to the poll, the results of the poll, and then your session comes up. So 1 more minute to go. If you have not answered the question on your screen, please answer. It is to ensure that everybody is carried along. Yeah. So I guess we can release the results of the poll now. Yeah, the results of the poll can be released. Okay. Do I need to state a specific amount when asked about my salary expectation? So a 6% says yes, 94% says no. Okay, and number 2, 100% says experience, skills, and strengths. That means we were really following Titi's session. Anyway, so Titi will come back to answer our questions, and especially I see that there's been question about number 1, which she would also give clarity on. So let's welcome Deji as he continues his session. Welcome, Deji. Let's unmute Deji, please, so he can take over.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'll just thank you very much, Titi, for the interview tips. I think I learned a lot from it, and I like the example you gave. It was very insightful. Thank you very much for that. Yes, so I'll just get right into the CV. Yeah, can anyone see my screen? All right. Yeah, so I started with CV tips, and according to Wikipedia, like I mentioned earlier, CV is a Latin phrase which means the course of your life. So technically, when people ask for your CV, they are looking to see like a written summary of your personal career, your qualifications, your educational background, and also things like your publications and any other information. Um, what in terms of what should be on a CV, I've highlighted 8 things that I feel are very critical, and you need to have these things on your CV. So the first thing is contact information. And in terms of contact information,
Hello, Deji. We can't see your screen.
can you hear me now?
We can't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, great. Um, yes, so like I was saying earlier, there are 8 critical things I feel should be on your CV. The first is your contact details. So when we say your contact details, we would like to say your full name, your phone number, your email address. These days, because of the recent hike in scam jobs and all, it's advisable to just put like a location. So for example, if I'm staying at Lekki, I can just put Lekki, Lagos, just so that I avoid having my residential address all over the place. So your contact information should have your full name, phone number, and email address. The next thing you should also have is your academic history. So on your academic history, you should have like the most recent one. So for example, if you have an MSc, you should have your MSc Come first, or your MBA, then your bachelor's degree. You don't necessarily need to put your secondary school education, but sometimes if you don't have so much information in terms of educational history, you can have your secondary education. But most recruiters are looking to see your master's degree and also your bachelor's degree. Another critical thing that should be on your CV is your professional experience. So, for example, I'm a chartered accountant, or I have certifications in human resources. I need to put these details on my CV with dates showing when I back this certificates. Another thing that should also be on your CV is your qualification and skills. So you might want to put your hard and soft skills. So soft skills could be like your communication skills, you have emotional intelligence, you have very good interpersonal skills. All of these things should reflect on your CV. In terms of hard skill, so this relates to like performing technical jobs. So for example, I find myself doing cyber security, or I'm applying for a cyber security role. I should have CV relating to certifications that speak to cyber security. The next one is awards and honors. So for example, you worked in an organization previously and you received certain awards based on your performance. All of these details should reflect on your CV. Or maybe you had good awards while you're doing internships or stuff like that. You should have all of these details on your CV. If you are also someone who has who's written some form of publications, presentations, you should have like the links or just a brief summary of what the publication was all about, and like references to say that this is what my publication was all about. Then the seventh thing that I feel is very critical to have on your CV is professional associations. So which professional associations do you belong? Are you a member of? Do you have active membership with the likes of, maybe in HR, for example, do you have CIPM membership or HRCI? So those sort of associations that you belong to should reflect on your CV. Someone is writing something on my screen. And the last thing I feel should be on the CV is also grants and scholarships. So if you've gotten some form of grants, maybe while you were in school, or scholarship, all of these things should reflect on your CV. So these are these are the things I feel should be on your CV. It's not exhaustive. There are some other things that you might want to put on your CV, but all of these details will sell you properly if you have them depicted on your CV. So I'll just move on to the next slide, which talks about how to write a CV. So in developing your CV, there are key things you need to consider. When you're developing your CV, you should ensure that you have like the right font. There's serif fonts and there's also the sans serif fonts. So look for font size, font categories rather that are clear. You don't want to have fonts that are written in cursive or they're not very clear. Someone picks up your CV, for example, and the person cannot understand what you're writing. So you should pick font sizes that are clear. You should also, the second point here says that you should check your margins, ensure that your margins are well, your CV is well justified. It is presented in a very structured manner. All of this. So for example, as a recruiter, there are CVs you pick and you want to read what is on the CV, but there are some CVs you see and you're like, you just lose the interest. Meanwhile, the person might be a qualified person, but you want to ensure that your CV is structured in a way that people are interested in looking at what you have there, even without reading it. Also try as much as possible to utilize space effectively. You need to ensure that you have so for example, in one of my roles previously, I could put them in bullet points, the responsibilities I did. I should have them in bullet points and clearly laid out. So this is how you're to have a very good CV. I'm going to show you a sample of a very good CV in the next slide after this. But let's talk about this. Things that should not be on your CV, which is very critical. I feel like a lot of people lose sight of some of these things. There are things that you don't necessarily need to have on your CV. So for example, the first thing here is irrelevant job experience. So you need to put things that will sell you. So here, for example, it states that achievements are not exactly achievements. So because you're a secondary school team captain, maybe a football captain, is not necessarily what the employer wants to see on your CV. It could come maybe as hobbies. I do this as my hobby, but these are not like relevant job experiences that you should put on your CV. Another critical thing is a physical description of yourself. So most times I've picked up a couple of CVs and you see people put like their pictures. I would advise you not to put your pictures on your CV. And the reason why is because CV creates some form of subjectivity or bias. So the person might not like your face, or the person might pick up your CV and it just doesn't like your face. So you don't want to put your pictures on your CV or images of what you look like. It's usually most times it's not necessary. Another thing to not have on your CV is a proper hobby listing. So it's good to have hobbies on your CV. Say, I like to read, I like to socialize, I like to listen to music, but this should not be a long list. You should just have a very short section that takes about 3 or 4, at most 5 things that you like to do as your hobbies. You don't want to have a long list of hobbies on your CV. The fourth point talks about private information. So when I say private information, I mean things like your religious beliefs. Stating that you're a Christian or you're a Muslim or you're a traditional worshiper on your CV is not actually necessary. People are not. It's not what we want to see on your CVs. On your CV, you should have like your contact details, my name, my contact details, email address, phone number, and it goes straight to my summary and experiences, education, and if I have referees, this should be on my CV. Another thing that should not be on your CV is contact information that would raise flags. So I don't want to have you pick up some people's CVs and you see funny email addresses. So for example, someone could have sextemitope@gmail.com. or stuff like that. You don't want to have such things on your CV. In terms of email addresses, you should have like professional email addresses. Adedeji at gmail.com or at yahoo.com or the likes. The 7th point talks about social security number or national insurance number. These are personal things. You don't want to be putting your national identity number on your CV. It's not necessary. The 8th point talks about colorful text and creative fonts. So you pick up some CVs also, and you see that there's just so much color. It's filled with so much design. Before a recruiter, for example, can say a CV is good, it doesn't necessarily need to have so much colors and design. It just needs to be well structured and detailed to show these are the things I've done. This is a summary of who I am, and just basically selling yourself through your CV. The 9th point talks about any objective that is not clear. So when most times people have a summary of themselves on their CV as the first section, and typically that's what the recruiter is looking to read when he picks up your CV. He looks at your name, contact details. Then the next thing you're having is a summary of yourself. So as much as possible, you want to ensure that the details you put there are relevant details that speaks to your experience or speaks to the things that you can do. You are basically trying to sell yourself with the summary of your profile, and that's like the first section of that. Typically, most times that should be like the first bad grammar. So when you create your CV, you should try as much as possible to proofread, read through your CV several times, or you could share with someone for the person to help you check through your CV to see that, okay, the details of your CV are well structured. There's no grammatical error. You don't want a recruiter to pick up your CV and he's seeing so many grammatical errors. I feel like if you take all of these things into consideration and ensure that these things are not on your CV, you would have a very detailed and structured CV that will sell you. That's why you see that some people apply for jobs, and even when they are qualified, they don't get called. This is because maybe the way their CV was structured, or the way they had probably bad grammars on their CV. So all of these things are things you should take into consideration. They are very important. So I'll just go straight to the next slide. This is what I was talking about in terms of having a CV. So this is a sample of my CV, for example, and I just put it in 2 pages. So you have like your name here, your address here, email address. I can see a couple of questions, but we'll get to that later. So you have your name here, contact details, a summary of yourself. Then you go straight to your experience, starting from your most recent experience or your current job, and you go down to your first form of employment. Then you go to your educational history, if you have a master's, and you talk about your certifications, relevant skills. And if you have referees, you can put them. If you decide, you can also decide that your referees will be provided on request. So this just shows you like what a CV should look like. And for people who like they contact people to write their CVs for you, most of you could also do this. If you take all of these points into consideration, you could also be able to develop a very detailed CV for yourself. These are some of the things people who write CVs look at, and they also try to get like, if, for example, if I'm applying for a role, they look at the job roles and how my current profile relates to the job roles, and they just help you structure your CV in that form. Now, this is the last slide, and it talks about LinkedIn optimization. As much as we have good CVs, it's also important that we have a very good LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is the market where recruiters or professionals look out for people who can fit in certain jobs, or if they're looking for certain positions to fill. Some recruiters just go to LinkedIn and do a search with a keyword of the role they are looking for. So if you need to ensure that your LinkedIn profile is fully optimized in such a way that if a recruiter goes on LinkedIn and he types, "I'm looking for an auditor," your name should be part of the first set of names that will come up because of the way you structured your CV and sold yourself on LinkedIn. So the first thing, these are some of the points I feel will help you sell yourself on LinkedIn. So you need to ensure that you choose the right profile picture. You don't want to have a profile picture on LinkedIn that shows you, I don't know, that doesn't look professional. Let me put it that way. So try as much as possible to take professional shots that would make you stand out. And you should also have like a good background photo that sells, that talks about, so for example, I'm in HR, I'm in human resource. I want to have a background photo that talks about maybe talent management cycle or the old HR process, or just something that speaks to who I am, and a professional photo that sells me adequately. Then as much as possible, you need to grow your network. So you look out for people who are in positions that you aspire to be. You look out for people, you look for mentors, people who could help you develop your competencies, your skills that would help you grow into the professional that you need to be. Also, you need to list relevant skills. So in terms of relevant skills, what skill, based on your job experiences, what skills do you have that would stand you out? Do you have, it could be soft skills, do you have good communication skills? It could be technical skills, you have knowledge of an human resource information system. You have, so all of those skills should be on your CV. Another thing is to spread endorsement love. So when I say spread endorsement love, there's a way on LinkedIn whereby you could endorse people. So if I'd worked with someone before and the person was probably very good on Excel or on PowerPoint, or maybe even with data analytics, I could just endorse the person. Okay, this person is very good on this. So you highlight people's good skills and you help them spread that endorsement love. Also, you could also reach out to people who you've worked with before and tell them to endorse you for certain skills that you know you are good at. Another point here is to also share relevant content from your LinkedIn field. Yeah. So you share relevant content about the kind of things you're interested in. If it's HR, if there's a new, if there's a trending discussion that you're aware of and you like to provide insights into, you could talk about that and like just build your profile in a way that you're creating visibility for yourself. You should also, if you have contacts or people who you have as mentors on your LinkedIn profile, you make comments on some of their posts, comments that relate to things that interest you. You could also request for recommendations from people. And a good way to request for recommendations, you could have, some of you have like, when you were in school, you had like project supervisors who you worked with, or lecturers who you interacted with. You could reach out to some of these people to request for recommendations, to tell them to give you a recommendation of how you were when you were in school, or even people you've worked with previously. So they could just recommend you for in terms of some of your strengths and some of the things you've done well previously. That's a good way to sell yourself. Then on LinkedIn also, there's a section that has a summary. So you have your profile picture, you have your background. So you talk about your summary, and your summary should give like, it's similar to the summary on your CV. You should give like a detailed summary of who you are in terms of your experience and kind of skills you have. And you could also talk about your interest. I'm interested in moving to an organization that would do this for me. So you're basically selling yourself with your summary, and you're also signifying your interest. Also, I mentioned earlier to follow relevant influencers in your industry. Make your headlines more than a job title. Basically, ensure you maximize all of the things on LinkedIn. Put relevant details when necessary, and have a very good professional picture on your CV. On LinkedIn optimization tips and a CV sample, things you should not have on your CV, and how to write a good CV. It's been wonderful talking here. I'm very grateful to Packaging for giving me the opportunity to discuss this with everyone on this call. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, I look forward to taking some of the questions going forward.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you.
very
I'll hand over to Bonnie at this point.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Deji. And of course, we have so many questions waiting for you to answer. So at this point, while we bring up the poll for Deji's session, would unmute Titi and Deji so that they can prepare to take our questions. So just before then, let us have the poll for Deji's session. Let's see what has been following or not. Let's have the poll for Deji's session, please. So just as we did with Titi's session, let's answer the questions on the poll and see what has been following or not. All right. That was a difficult one, was it? Maybe not. So let's see. So let's unmute Titi and Deji while we await the results of the poll. Okay, can we have the results of the poll now so that we can take our questions and try to finish up on time? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I guess there was some sort of mix-up somewhere. Should you not include contact details? You should not include professional experience. Okay, I think this was from probably not reading the question well, because obviously. Wow. So Deji, I want to believe 96% of us were correct and 91% for the second question, right? So the people who, right?
Yeah, exactly. 96% and 91% were correct.
Okay, so the 2% and the 2 and 8%, please see what the correct answers are. It won't be nice for us to get out of this session with still having this misunderstanding. So let's take learnings from this and move on. So moving on quickly, we have a question that says, can you please expand on talking bad about your former job place? Please give examples. I think Titi already gave an example of this during our session. So for the sake of our time, questions that have been answered, we just quickly move forward. So someone says, what if I ask a question and it's redirected to me? Then what will I do then? Okay, Titi, this is your question. So I know one of the points you raised was that when they say, do you have any question? You should ask a question. So I think this is coming on the heels of that. It says, if I ask a question and it is redirected to me, what will I do then? Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think any job interviewer will redirect a question to you if you're asking them the right question. Okay, for example, I had an interview with Flour Mills. And at the end of the interview, I was asked, do I have a question for them? And I just asked them a very simple question. I said, while growing up, my mom used to sell, flour products from Flour Mills. And that was way back like almost 30 years or even over 30 years. And they're still in the market. They should just tell me what's the thing, what's the secret that is keeping the organization going even up to today and is going on stronger and stronger day by day. And the person was, in fact, it took almost like 30 minutes to answer my question. I was gracious enough to answer my question. I don't think any interviewer would throw back a question at you when you ask them a question. I don't think so. Because it's your own time. They've asked you all the questions they want to ask you, and now they've given you the opportunity to ask your own question. And it's also important that you ask, I don't want to use the word sensible now, you ask, a question that shows that you've done your research about the organization, an intelligent question. It's very important.
All right, thank you.
That's my take on that.
All right. So another question says, so this is a reference to the fact that I said when they ask you for the salary, expected salary, you are not supposed to give a fixed sum. So Okereke says at his last interview, okay, my last interview, I was asked to give a fixed amount or range. So I guess in situations like that where you have to give a fixed amount, so say what's the expected salary, and they insist on a fixed amount or range, how are you supposed to approach that?
Okay, it's advisable that you just top up what you're earning currently with maybe like 20% or 25% and give them that that's what your expectation is. And if you're going to give a range between a top up of 25% to like 50% top up. That's what is advisable to do. Because you cannot be earning, let's say, 200,000 and you applied for a job that's almost the same role as what you're currently occupying and you want to get 100% of the salary. Anybody bringing you in might want to just add maybe like a 20% increment or max 50% increment. So you can just give a range between 20 to 50%. You can say, oh, I would like to earn maybe between 5 to, let's say, 7.5 million per annum. So that's my take.
All right, thank you, Titi. So Olalekon says, is it mandatory to give a definite figure about your last or current pay, as it feels that's personal?
Well, it depends on the organization. It's not every organization that will ask you for your pay slip, but I've had a couple of organizations that have asked me for my last pay slip for them to be able to negotiate with me on what they would want to offer me. So it depends on the organization. As I said earlier, the world of interview keeps changing. New trends keep coming in, and that's why you have to keep yourself abreast of the new happenings, the new trend in the world of interview. It's not all organizations that will ask for that, but some will do. And when they do, would you, because of you don't want to divulge your current pay slip, lose the job? You might not want to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Titi, so there's been a couple of questions that says we are going to talk about how, as a fresh graduate with no experience, you want to sell yourself. So, like, how do you sell yourself without experience as a fresh graduate?
Okay, I actually noted that question then because I saw about 2 or 3 persons ask that question.
Yeah.
Okay, for example, I'm going to speak on my own personal experience. During my service year, where I was posted to in River State, the school rejected me, but the woman refused to give me, there's this letter she was supposed to give, redeployment letter or something for me to go back to NYC to get a new place. She refused to give that to me, and I was just aloof. I couldn't serve in the school where I was posted to, and I didn't have anything doing. So one of these days, I saw a job opportunity and I applied and they invited me. It had to do with sales of pension. That was when the new Pension Reform Act came into place. And they were trying to get a market for the pension products. So when I went for the interview, I didn't know anything about pension. I didn't know anything about sales or marketing. But all I just did was I did a brief, of study about what the pension is, the new Pension Act. And I went for the interview. When I got there, they asked, okay, you don't have any experience, you're just fresh from school. How are you going to perform on this job? And I told them that, what, my mom, I sold for my mom in a shop, after a while after school, I resumed at my mom's shop. My mom wasn't really literate, and I realized that business was going down, and I helped her with marketing of our product. I was going from client to client. I just told them what I was doing for her, how I was able to, transform her sales, how I was able to boost her sales. I even went as far back as when I was in secondary school. I told them that when I was in secondary school, we had the poultry. I went from neighbor to markets, the poultry birds to our neighbors. And every year we always sold out our items because we had people coming to book ahead of Christmas or festive season to buy our poultry products. So you can just look at yourself. One thing I want to tell you that you have the skills. You have everything in you, one way or the other. You would have done one thing or the other that you can use to sell yourself. So don't look at yourself and say, oh, I don't have any experience. One way or the other, either maybe even in your church, one way or the other, definitely you would have done something that you can use to market yourself. It was when I was sitting down and talking about my mom's shop, how I was able to help her with the sales of our items, in our shop. I was able to go from bakery to meet bakery owners, introduce the sales, the items she's selling to them, and was able to transform myself. And I remember that, yes, when I was in secondary school too, I did something similar. When I was going from our neighbor's house to also market our poultry items, how I became friends with our neighbor's children, all because I want their parents to come and buy our poultry items. And what do they need for marketing, basically? Somebody who is dogged, somebody who can sell. That's all that they needed. And lo and behold, I got the job apparently. They were all just laughing at the interview panel. But at the end of the day, I got the job. I know one of the top managers there told me that, the way you spoke passionately about selling for your mom and selling chicken, even though it was the secondary school, wild us, and we know that if we give you this job, you perform on the job, and you are somebody who is willing to learn, and that's how I got the job. So you can also just look at yourself and think back, what is that thing I have done one way or the other that fits into the job role you're going to interview for? And you find out that you just wow the interview panel. That's my take on it. So
thank you, Titi. So a question says, is there a particular dress code for interviews?
Wow, okay, for dress code, okay, like when I worked with Haggai, in Haggai, we don't wear trousers. That is the policy of the organization. And that's why I say it's very important that you also do a background check on the organization where you're going to work. Luckily, I was able to meet someone who works there and told me that if you're coming for interview, don't come with trousers because we don't wear trousers. Like a Christian organization. And when I was going, I wore my skirt suit, and I made sure I was not too loud. I didn't use colorful hair. I just tried to, dress myself in accordance with their policy. If I had not asked, I would have gone there with trousers, and that might just be a turn off for maybe the interview panel, and I would have lost that opportunity. So it's also very good to find out, maybe a background of where you're going to work. Are they conservative people? Is it a religious organization? Do they allow for colorful hair? I saw somebody ask the question about using colored wigs and the likes that. Yes, let me just answer it together. It's important that you try to do a background check, if you can, if possible. But where you cannot, it's just advisable. It doesn't kill for you to be conservative in your dressing. It doesn't kill at all. If you have a black wig in your house and rather than wear a red one, just use a black one. At least because you don't know what is expected of you. But black, everywhere you go to, black is acceptable. Or maybe a darker shade of color, maybe a dark brown, but not a flashy color, just to be on the conservative side. I believe this will help. I hope this answers that question.
Yeah. So we have another question that says, can you make reference to achievements in religious activities in an interview? I think you touched on this already.
Yeah, you can. You can, but just be technical about it. Okay, like for example, now, when I went for my current job interview, I told them that I was a teens mentor and also a marriage counselor. I didn't have to tell them it was in the church. They just asked me, what are the extracurricular activities that you do? And I said, well, I mentor teens and I also partake in marriage counseling. And they didn't further ask me where. Do you get? So you can just technically, you don't have to say, I do that in maybe the name of your church. You can be technical about answering such questions.
All right, thank you, Titi. So I think this next set of questions are for Deji because they are CV-related questions. So okay. Deji, the question reads, I read somewhere that recruiters spend an average of 6 seconds viewing a CV. What are things that one could include in a CV that will entice or interest the recruiters?
Yeah. So recruiters spend very short time going through CVs because they have so many CVs. They get so many job applications. So most times they are looking for keywords that relate to the role you're applying for. So for example, in professional services, for example, and you're trying to recruit someone into audit, you need someone who's qualified in either ICANN or ACCA. So sometimes these are the key things you look out for. Is the person qualified, or does the person have background knowledge in some of these areas? So they look out for some of these things, and if they don't see these key things, they just put your CV aside because they have so many things to look out for. So that's why it's advisable to try as much as possible to apply to roles that you're qualified for.
All right, thank you, Deji. So let's move on quickly. Someone says, is it necessary to include your grades on your CV?
To include your grades on your CV, it's not necessary. I would say it's not necessary, and it's also necessary. So it's subjective, and the reason why I would say that is, for example, some people graduated with a 2.2, for example, and they just feel like, I was very close to achieving the 2.1, and maybe I had a 3.49, and the 2.1 was just a 3.5. They could just put if you choose to, you can just put a 3 point. You can put the grade there just to show that I actually put in effort. I was this close. That's the only reason why I would say you can put your grade. If you feel like your grade will sell you better, it's best you put your grade there also.
So someone says it's been lashed out at interviews for spending less than a year. So he says he has worked in 3 companies in a space of 2 years, right? And his reason for moving as better pay and work culture. But it says interviewers says energy is a threat to them. how can he, what's the best way to handle this?
Well, that's a tricky one. So most times, organizations don't want to recruit people who would um, who would come into the organization and spend just a couple of months and then leave. They just see they feel like this person might be a threat because it's just moving up from one place to another. So I feel like in that scenario, you've been to three different organizations and you left there within the space of 3 years. You just need to for the role you're applying for or for the role you're having an interview for, you need to be able to let the interviewers understand why the role is important to you and how committed you are to being on that role, basically.
All right, thank you, Deji. We have a couple of questions that are close to that. I hope Deji has answered your question. One, the final question that I think would be good for everybody to know, I would just ask so that we can move on. What's the best way to attach your CV, Word or PDF?
I would say PDF. PDF is better. Although there are applications that they would specifically state that you should attach your CV rather in this format or the other formats. I think you should stick to that. But in terms of Word or PDF, it's always best to have your CV in PDF format.
Okay, thank you very much, Deji. These are the questions we can take. Apologies for those that we cannot answer their question. However, packaging offers these services, so you can always reach out to packaging. So just to close up, we are going to ask you one more question. So a poll will come up on your screen now. And while you answer that, we have a couple of announcements to make. Datalium are able and very generous sponsor has agreed or has proposed to give somebody in this session a free data analytics class. So if that is your line of job or you want to get knowledge of data analytics via Datalium, here is an opportunity to. So we can put up the poll, the final poll, while I go through these. Datalium says for people that can okay, here is the ask. Go on LinkedIn and talk about this session. Say what you have learned so that your connections can also learn. Tag Datalium and tag packaging. At the end of the week, the post with the highest engagement gets, now listen, one, a free data analytics class courtesy of Datalium, a free CV revamp courtesy of packaging, a free LinkedIn profile revamp courtesy of packaging. So I hope we got that. You win a free data analytics class courtesy of Datalium, a free CV revamp, and a free LinkedIn profile revamp. That is so much. And all you have to do is go on your LinkedIn page, talk about what you have learned from this session, tag packaging, tag Datalium, and the person with the highest engagement on post will win apologies for the late, will win these three things. So just one person. Also, packaging has also said for as many people as would want somebody to work on their CV, which is really not out of place. We understand that not everybody can do everything. Packaging is willing to give 10% off the cost of CV review for the first 3 people. So only the first 3 people. If you reach out to us and we say no more slots, please know that it is because 3 people have paid for CV review. So if you want your CV reviewed by packaging and the price range depending on your level of experience, please reach out to us. Reach out to packaging after this session. For the first 3 people that pay, you get 10% off. And finally, we have a job offer for auditors in the house. So if you are an auditor and you're in this session, so the request is auditors looking for job in the Big Four. I'm sure auditors know what the Big Four are. And those of you that, I'm sure many people know what the Big Four, right? Please send your CV to us. That's to packaging at info@packaging.co. So I'll send the email address via the chat room now. Send your CV to info@packaging.co. So here is it. Send your CV there if you're an auditor that wants to work in one of the Big Four. Please share your CV between now and Tuesday, please. So We are giving you enough time to put your CV together. So we understand that you might need to do some edits considering you've learned a couple of things from this session, right? So the handles to tag are Datalium and packaging. Datalium and packaging on LinkedIn. So I'm sure we all got the offer, so we don't waste our time any further. Remember, 10% off for the first 3 people to pay for a CV revamp. And if you want to, Datalium and packaging. Okay, thank you, packaging. CV revamp, 10% off, remember. And if you want to revamp for the auditor role, feel free to reach out to us. We can revamp and get it ready to submit to the recruiter. All right, thank you very much. Don't forget to um HR personnel looking for job can also send their CVs to info@packaging.co. So we have opportunities for everybody. So don't forget to follow us on social media, Datalium and Packaging, across social media platforms. And if you have any question, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Packaging for putting together this beautiful one. And thank you to Datalium, our able sponsors, for joining us to give make an impact. Thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of your. Oh, so we have 46%, an equal amount of people that want us to work on their CV, and people that prefer to do it yourself. That means this session was a success, because really there is nothing wrong in giving your CV to a professional. What is important is that you know what to look out for, and the guys that want to do it themselves, that means they have enough knowledge to do it themselves. Thank you everybody for opportunity request. Send your CV or your request to the email address provided. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a nice week ahead. Thank you. Bye.